Let's talk about refreshing. So I know you're like, we're basically not even, it's not the end of May. We're like halfway through the quarter and we're already going to talk about refreshing. And I want to for a couple of reasons. Number one is you might need to do a refresh now. I set quarterly goals for a couple of reasons. One of those is it allows me to get individual, like smaller step progress on my goals, right? One of them is to help me stay focused on something specific and figuring out my action steps. Great. But one big reason to set quarterly focused goals is so that you can set goals that are specific to where you are at in that season of life. And we use the word season so interchangeably when we talk about this because season can mean the actual season, right? Winter, spring, summer, fall. But season also tends to mean like what else you have going on. I'm in a season with small children. I'm in a season of engagement. In the words of Taylor Swift right now, we are using the word era. I'm in my whatever era. Season was kind of the original part of that phrase, right? And so when you set quarterly goals, the other major, and for me too, is what do I need in that season? What are the goals that are going to support my life and make sense for my life in that season? And for most of my adult life and my goal setting life, the quarters of the year, the way they fall, like 3 months at a time, has just worked. It's just worked for me. There hasn't been anything that's really any different. And for now, I may keep that the same. I mentioned this on, I think it was last night's coaching call. I may change that next year. I may decide that I want to do a refresh for the summer, which for me is in my brain kind of kicks off Memorial Day weekend. And I know that's not like the true definition of summer, right? Summer is the end of June. So the quarters almost fall in with the actual seasons, right? It's off by like a week or two. And I don't have a summer as it pertains to any sort of schooling. And that could change by next year, not necessarily school, but you know what I mean? Some sort of place that like that my daughter would go. But it's more for me about how I treat that season. What are the things I want in my life? And for me, a lot of it is also dependent on the weather. I really want to lean in the next 3-4 months to the weather and pick my work schedule. The beauty of working for myself is, with the exception of this live and the coaching call, everything else I can do pretty much whenever I want. Like, it doesn't have to be done a set day, a set time. I can do it over the course of the week whenever I want. And so I want to be able to look at the week and say, okay, Tuesday is going to be a absolutely beautiful day. I want to go to the pool and take any work I planned for Tuesday and push it to Friday, right? I don't need to do it on the day that I planned. And I understand that is like a benefit of working for myself. There's also I was just talking to a friend who works for herself who is sick. And I was like, that's when I miss like having a corporate job, is being able to take a sick day. And I understand taking sick days still, there's meetings to be rescheduled. There's still lots of pieces to it. But it is a different feeling when you work for yourself and you take a sick day and you're like, nothing is getting done. I'm not making any progress and I'm not getting paid. Anyway, pros and cons. I could lean into the weather. I can't take paid sick days. That said, so in my head, I would have potentially liked to do a refresh for right now and set a different set of goals for June, July, August, and actually probably September. But I am not doing it that way this year. I'm just sticking with my normal quarters. You'll see that in my goals video, and that's how I'm going to continue. You might need a refresh now. You might decide that it makes more sense for you to go ahead and refresh your goals. And when I say refresh, I mean two components. Number one is checking in with your annual goals. Where are you at in your annual goals? Do you want to adjust anything about them? Do you need to add anything or change things? And I talked last quarter a lot about all kinds of things related to a refresh. And one of those things was um, things that you might know you need a refresh. You can go back and revisit those videos, that one in particular. And one of those things was like something popped up and you know that you need a refresh because you got engaged or you had a baby or you got a new job or you're moving or whatever. But some of it might just be like you feel like you need it. And those of you who work in education, this could potentially be a time that you need a refresh, etc. So the reason I want to talk about this is if you feel like you need it, take it. Don't wait until it is the new quarter, if that makes sense. Okay. So if you don't feel like you need it and you're like me and you're going to just wait to do your refresh at the middle to end of June, it's never too early to start thinking about it. I know that's the question, the title of the video. The answer is no, it's not too early. I would recommend you have a running list. And I talked about this during a live towards the end of last quarter, specifically about all the various goal lists that I have. Start that list. Start that idea list for Q3, like right now. That way, you know that your brain has capacity to focus on right now and you're thinking about it instead of being like, oh, I wish I could do a refresh. And instead, I'm just not going to focus on my goals. Like you can stay focused and have a running list of ideas for Q3. Another reminder is that you are allowed to change your mind. Goals do not have rules. They don't. Goals do not have rules. They may have suggestions. They may have guidelines. They may have, maybe rules and guidelines are the same thing. May have structure. There may be suggestions on when I would recommend you refresh this, that, and the other. But there are no set rules. There's no right or wrong way to do goals. The best way is the way that works for you and the way that makes sense for you and your life, your brain, your personality, your everything. So you're allowed to change your mind. So maybe today, sitting here today, whether you're here live or watching the replay, you decide, I don't want to do a refresh yet. I'm good. I'm just going to set goals for June. And then your kids get out of school on June 7th. What day of the week is that? It's not even feasible. Yeah, it's a Friday. Hey, good job, me. I think my brain probably innately knew that it was a Friday. So your kids get out of school June 7th and you're going into that weekend and you're thinking about how different Monday is going to feel, how different it is going to be from Friday, from your kids being in school to not being in school. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, I need to revamp my goals. My goals need a refresh because what I'm doing right now is not going to work for this new phase of our year. You can change your mind and you could do a refresh in that moment. Or in my case, you could not. And you could decide like, nope, this is how I'm going to stick through it for this year, this quarter, whatever. And I may change my mind at a later date. We'll see. I may actually for my quarterly goals do June, July and August and then treat September. If I'm not going to lump September into with June, then September might be like fall. And I know I say this every year. And so I'm saying it again for all of us to remember, I don't need goals in December. December doesn't need goals. December is about the holidays and Vlogmas and preparing for the new year. No goals in December. So maybe what I'm going to do is July, August is a set of goals, my summer goals, if you will. And then September, October, November are my fall goals. And then December is December. Now, the harder part about this is that I do quarterly refresh calls with you and I film videos. And so how that shakes out might look a little bit different. But my point is you are in control. You get to decide what works best for you and your life. I see a couple comments. I'm going to click over. Summer starting on the solstice is a modern concept. There's a reason it's also known as Midsummer's Day. Interesting. And it also very much depends on where you live in the world, right? Like, obviously, if you're on the other side of the hemisphere, we're not talking about summer, right? We're talking about winter. And it depends on what the seasons look like in your neck of the woods. I mean, it was 90 degrees here yesterday. That's not quite normal for Chicago, but truly did feel like summer to me. I prefer to focus on season of the year, feels grounded in nature and our historic cultural rituals. The term season of life is often used in fundamentalist Christian culture, and I cannot relate to. Susie, I feel that, and I wish that wasn't the case, right? I wish we could use season of life and it has nothing to do with religion, because it doesn't. Frankly, it does not. The season of life that we're in that's a human thing, right? We all have seasons of life depending on what you have going on in your individual life. And so I don't use that word from that place of it. I just want everyone to know that. And I don't think it needs to be. I think it unfortunately has maybe gotten used that way. And so that is how people relate to it. So if we need we need to come up with a different phrase, but it is really, it's about what does your life look like right now, essentially. The quarterly timelines always felt awkward to me as a grad student. I've switched to refreshing my goals 3 times a year in January, May, and September. I love that. I think that depending on what, she is in her grad student season of life, and maybe we just need to do era here in her grad student era. But that, I don't know, for whatever reason, y'all, that kind of annoys me too. It may just be me. Or maybe it's just overused at this point. But the refreshes when they make sense for you. And again, no rules, just suggestions. My suggestions would be that it's not any shorter than, let's say, 2 months. Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense to revisit any shorter than that, but I wouldn't go any longer than 4. So 3 times a year would probably be my recommendation, a minimum, just because any more than that and you're letting it go on a lot longer without revisiting those annual goals. Okay, next thing I want to remind you of, which I have a bullet point here, but I have already said this multiple times. I talked about a lot of these topics in more detail and specificity last quarter. So if you want to start thinking about it and you just want some things to grind your gears, to get your gears turning, is the phrase I was trying to use there, go back and rewatch some of those lives. The timestamps are always in the description box, so you can jump directly to the teaching part of the live. Revisit the topics from last quarter, all about refreshing. Most importantly, though, and the biggest reason I recommend doing any kind of goal refresh is more now, so much more than you did in December when you set your goals, or even March when you last refreshed it. My guess, if you're like me too, when we revisited our annual goals in March, we were like, I just set them. Like, I feel good about them. We know a lot more now. We have lived a lot more of this year. We know more about where our year is headed, right? When we were setting our goals last December, the following December was 12 months away. I don't know about you, but I'm not planning a whole lot 12 months out. But now that it's almost June, we have a really good sense, at least I do, of what the rest of my year will look like. And I can more confidently set annual goals as it pertains to the rest of the year. So don't feel like, oh, well, I don't need a refresh because like my goals haven't changed. You don't know that. You don't know that your priorities haven't shifted in your subconscious. I would encourage you just to take a second and revisit and think about it, because you know so much more than you did when you last set your goals. And the last thing that I want to say on this topic is we're almost halfway. Okay. Like, we're almost halfway. I don't want you to take that and use it as an excuse to give up on 2024. That's a lot of time. We still have so much of the year left. So regardless of what has happened in the last 5.5, 6 months, please, please, please do not give up on 2024. There's still so much time left. You still have so many opportunities to make progress. And I don't want you to use what has happened about what has happened over the last however many months to direct you the second half. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. even though I'm long out of school and don't work on campus anymore, the calendar is still ingrained in me. Yeah, there's a lot of people that still prefer a refresh as it pertains to the school calendar. My birthday is June 14th. It's mid-year. It's perfect to recess. I love that. I really do. And that's why for me too, I probably will never lose that first quarter check-in because my birthday is March 25th. And so for me, refreshing at the end of March just feels right to me. But I can see in the future doing something that's like um, April and May together, and then June, July, and August together. Um, I know that one piece of this that came up for me when I was thinking about this topic that I do struggle with or potentially could struggle with is when it happens in the middle of a month, right? So the example I was giving, right? Your kids are done with school June 7th. How do you tackle that? How do you tackle that? And I want to share that even though the months give us this nice, pretty outline, your life and your timeline is more important than some perfect month. So if that were the case, I would recommend, like, if you're like, I want to base it on my kids' school year because that works for you, or your school year because you work in education, or your spouse's school year because they work in education, whatever it is, if you're basing it on a school calendar and it's not perfectly at the end of a month, then you just extend 1 month and shorten the other. So let's say my daughter was in school and I foresee at some point in my life where my goals very much are going to be dictated on whether she is in school or not, because I spend a lot of my day caring for her. And so that will impact what I can and cannot get done. So let's say she gets out June 11th. I picked like a random day. I would do May goals through like June 10th. I would probably always do a week. So maybe like June 9th, that Sunday. And then I would do June goals, that's shorter. And that would be fine, but it would make sense for my life and my situation. Oh my gosh, this comment. This is honestly the first year I haven't thrown in the towel on goals. Planning community is playing a big supporting part. So grateful. I love that. Same. This year, I'm actually working on it thanks to these lives and one little word. That's awesome. Okay, the last thing I want to tell you about is if you need help thinking through this and some tangible actions, we are doing another goal refresh challenge. I did this last year, so it is going to feel very similar to last year's, except that it's a year later. And so I know more and you know more. You're in a different place. I'm in a very different place. And so it's going to be the same concept, but obviously refreshed and different. So it is a free goal refresh challenge. All you have to do is sign up with your email. The link is in the description box, and you're going to get video trainings and handouts emailed to you for 3 days. It is Friday. It's going to kick off Friday, June 7th. It doesn't matter. That's just the days that I would recommend. I know a lot of you work full-time during the week, and so Friday, Saturday, Sunday made sense to me. It's enough time that you're going to get those videos in your possession. That way you can work through them before we would need to actually set up our goals. So that will kick off Friday, June 7th. You'll get the first email with the first video in your inbox. If you are interested in signing up, the link is in the description box. You just need your email and your name. I don't know why the email platform needs your name, but they do.